Welcome to this video on the subject of memory, the fourth video in the foundation series of the Desperate Pianist. The videos that tackle subjects in greater detail than any other videos. Now, the speed of memorizing has got nothing to do with musical talent. You may be handicapped, but if you get there in the end, you can be a better musician. Also, if you can speak a language fluently, and you can your own, then you can learn to play the piano. We need to work specifically on remembering a piece of piano music because when we're playing, we don't have time to work out what's next. And that's obvious, which it is, but there's more because it's an extremely complex activity that's happening at speed. And we don't have time just to hoof it as we go along. We need to know exactly what we're doing, when and where. Obviously, if we have to perform without music, off the cuff maybe, then we need to have remembered the piece. If we remember the piece very well, we're much less likely to make mistakes. And then again, if we know around a mistake, we can actually recover from that mistake if it's in our minds, in our memories. Of the three pillars of failure to play the piano, or any musical instrument, or a lot of other things as well, are poor dexterity, bad practice habits, and poor memory. And I would say, speaking personally, the biggest reason you're not achieving your goals is because you're not memorizing your music correctly, comprehensively, or quickly enough. We need to build a really powerful, robust memory of a piece that can be recalled with ease so we can play just what we want when we want. Most talented musicians are endowed with good memories, and brilliant musicians have got amazing memories. And they don't have to spend the resources on learning a piece. They can concentrate on musical interpretation. And a lot of teachers who are good musicians just do not appreciate this point. They can be teaching pupils and thinking that they're failing when in fact they're just not learning fast enough. But talented musicians aren't aliens. We've all got the same biology, so we can all become skilled at the piano if we can learn memory skills, which you can. They are found on our practice videos. How many memories are required to memorize a piece of music? Well, if you've got a repertoire of pieces, that's probably as many notes as there are words in a book. So it's a big task to memorize all these notes. But we do have help. We've got our structure of music knowledge, which gives us patterns and ideas to help us memorize. But helpfully, the memory has almost infinite capacity. So we can do it. It may take time. But we need to make robust connections in the brain so we can recall the pieces at will to the standard that we need. Our brains are not designed to remember notes on a page. We're designed to remember things and places. You can imagine our caveman. He needed to remember where there was a source of food, and especially if he was chased in a particular place by a tiger. So we must use our memories in the way they're built, by looking for shapes and patterns rather than just trying to learn a load of notes on a page. It's most likely that your memory is either undeveloped or just plain lazy. And I don't mean that as an insult. It's more that could be the reason why you're not achieving your piano goals. But the good news is that we can improve our memory skills over time. If we just exercise and use our memories, then it's been shown scientifically that we can make more brain connections. A good thing to look at is some interviews by memory champions who describe how they managed to learn a whole pack of cards in one go. You can learn a lot from that. Making memory is completely unconscious. We can't physically do it. We just have to present the music to us, and then hopefully it will be memorized, which it is. It's the recall that's the problem. It's difficult to know what's happening, but if we just keep presenting material to our memories, then eventually we will memorize it. And remember, when you sit down to the piano and play a piece on the first run through, that's as good as your memory is. It's amazing how much you load into your short-term memory if you play a piece through a few times. But don't get fooled to thinking that's how good you are. It's when you perform is the level at which you've memorized the piece. Normally when we try and remember something, or maybe even succeed, we put the material into our subconscious or muscle memories and then just simply recall it when we want to remember it. And that's true to a certain extent, but it's not good enough for the complex activity of playing the piano. We can divide our memories and our minds into two modes, voluntary and involuntary, mind and muscle, conscious and subconscious. Now, the problem with the muscle or motor memory is that it's a sequential memory, and we remember things in a succession. But if that's interrupted, then we fall over, and that's very possible when playing the piano. What we need to do when we play the piano is we need to be able to get the muscle memory going fast enough to play the piece, but then we also need a conscious memory overlay. This conscious memory overlay rides shotgun over your muscle memory, so that when your muscle memory is failing, or you go then your conscious memory can fill in the details and makes the memory much more robust, which is what you need for a reliable performance of the piano. One interesting experiment to make, and a good practice activity, is to play your piece really, really slowly with the notes, say 1 second apart, enough to break down the sequential motor memory. And then you can see how good your conscious memory overlay is. We're making memories all the time, and our brains are sifting through them to see which are important, worth keeping, and which aren't. And when we're learning a piece on the piano, we need to force the brain into making these memories robust and recallable. And the way we do this is that we do it often, and we ask the brain to recall it often. If we just don't practice for a couple of days, then the brain thinks, well, I don't bother remembering this because I don't need it. So that's one important, very important thing to do. You have to hit the memory work on a piece really hard at the beginning to make the memories. Now, one thing to be careful of is that practice makes permanent. So if you make a mistake at the beginning and you cement that in your memory, it's very difficult to take it out and change it. But do not fear, we have practice techniques here at the Desperate Pianist to stop that sort of thing happening. Now, another thing you need to be able to do is to memorize at the right loading speed for your brain. We can't make memories if we overload the brain with too many things. We can only really memorize one thing at a time. So when you're working, get into the habit of slowing down and simplifying things by playing hands separately or playing smaller sections, and then your brain can make an efficient memory. It's very important to create start points. And what I mean by a start point is that if you sat down at the piano, you could start from a point in the music, from cold, without having to look at the music. And going back to our motor muscle memory, that helps us, because if our muscle memory gets broken, then we have a place where we can start again without being totally lost. And if you think about it, if we could start from any note, then we would never fail, because if we made a mistake, we would just start at the next note. Another thing to look at is to learn your piece from different perspectives. And it's a difficult thing to kind of describe, but if you can look at it from a different way, so for example by key sequence or the shape of the notes or the form or the bass line, it will help you a lot in your practice with memorizing the piece. But we do go into this on a vastly more detailed level in the practice videos. It goes without saying that you will learn and remember better if you're fit, healthy and not tired. Also, memorizing is very good for you. It stops your brain getting senile. Use it or lose it is the popular maxim. Learning is much more difficult if your mind is in turmoil. Maybe you just crashed a car or you've left the cooker on or something. Try to have your mind in a calm state. One thing you can do is read through the score if you can't get to a keyboard. You take it on holiday or something. You can even go so far as to write the score down. Either copy it or from memory, and some concert pianists do actually do this, so they get it even better cemented in their mind. But don't be too proud to use the sheet music, because if you do have a compromised memory, then you will need the sheet music. And don't forget that when you sit down to practice, your memory does work better at some times and worse at others. You're not always going to be remembering at the same rate. Sometimes it really works and sometimes it doesn't. But don't let that get you down, because you will be able to memorize a piece.